middling. What the heck? So, yeah, of course. The day after I write my little epilogue, I didn't write it. Put my little epilogue on my channel, I decide that it's a good idea to sit on my porch, my outdoor back porch, and to think about middle age. Middling. It's something that I've been kind of throwing around in my head. So recently I've kind of come to like a peaceful stage in a lot of things, and I'm kind of trying to figure out what that even means. A lot of it is that Brad and I have like settled into pretty close to what we'll be doing for the next decade and a half, I think. So he's helping transition some stuff in his job, just right where he's at, like just kind of walking with people where he's at, and that's kind of it. That's really cool. There's some growth there that's happening, but really a lot of just peace. And then in my position, I feel like I call it my old lady job, because I'm like, I can do this for a long time. And I have goals there, but I also have like, I can just basically just see what happens there and kind of grow and show up every day, and like when I need to, or when I'm assigned or whatever, and really help be a part of a community that's moving along. Some pretty cool things, but middling. I think it's the time when, so our society is very, very focused on your early 20s, or even your late teens into 20s. We're kind of obsessed with that time, which is, it's a miraculous time of growth and development. It's kind of where your ego takes flight, and when you're young, you're really just trying to like learn the basic ropes and survival, and like if you're lucky, you get exposed to all sorts of ways of learning and learning about yourself. And but then as you grow, you kind of start to, some of the stuff you've been working on for, honestly, your cognitive functions, you've been working on them for decades by then, or at least two, they start to take off. And it's generally when we fall in love, or at least start looking for partners, or we go out into the world, we go out to universities, and it's, Western world, I don't know. All lives kind of have this peak in their 20s, and then there seems to be this arrival state where at least you're not, at home anymore. And like, that's not true for everyone, but in that's the general pattern that we try to follow. And then it's just like you go off and you make a career, or a life for yourself, or a family, or whatever you're going to do, and then you kind of just disappear, which is interesting, because I feel like after you've achieved that is sort of when you're the last stage of major growth, the kind of pendulum switches. And if you're into MBTI, it's your lower functions. So you have 4 major cognitive functions. Your first 2, your savers, sorry, I'm allergic to the world, kind of drive you through things, and then you start to peak and you start to build on those lower cognitive functions, and they tend to rear their ugly head, because as you get older, not only has like the successes of your saviors kind of come to fruition, but the failures and the annoyances and the grievances and the piles, in my case literal piles of SI, start to build. And sometime around the pandemic, when I was like 36, 37, achieved a lot of things. Not that life was really about that at the time. To be honest, I kind of got off the achievement boat a long time ago. I was trying to figure out who I was, which I didn't realize was my achievement. Like that, if you have FI anywhere in your first 2 stackings, finding out who you are is going to be part of your life's legacy. So knowing that now, I'm like, oh, cool, right on time. And I feel like if you have to work on your saviors, because if you don't work on your saviors, you won't actually grow, and you won't actually find what you're supposed to find, and you won't really find your position or your place, or be able to play your personality type strongest part in life. So that's important and necessary. But then it's sort of like figuring out what your demons are trying to tell you. And sometimes that's connected to family traumas. Sometimes that's generational pains that are coming up, lessons that you have to learn in your life patterns or your family systems. Sometimes it's personal things. whether that be emotional or literally, like in my case, the case of like, I feel like I'm just going to be doing SI for the rest of my life, which for those who don't understand or know about MBTI, that's introverted sensing. And so it's like organizing things, schedules, like being on time, being like, you know, I don't know, being organized. It really is heavy lifting for me, but when I do it, when I organize my house, when I organize my life, when I organize my schedule, when I organize my kids' lives, like it just, I really start to get some bigger movements. And so I feel like middling is sort of a time, like before then, it's like a striving time, and pretty much it works. Like you set out a goal, you put your mind to it, you kind of work on your skills, and you start to go for things. And then you start to get some external validation because you know, work through your own kinks and angles, and you work through your job or your career or your family life, and you get kind of better at it. And then if you're going to make some real major changes, you're either digging up your past and working through that and changing your relationships and how you relate to your family and to your significant other or to your children. And then you're also working on those lower functions, and even deeper lower down, because there's actually 8 cognitive functions, and we all have 4 dominants that are 2 are saviors, 2 are demons, and then the 4 under are like other things that can swing up. And in my case, I feel like that's kind of like, I guess FE has sort of been a bigger one, where I'm not trying to please people, but I am trying to understand the best ways of approaching not just group dynamics, but how to get things done. So I guess it's TE of FE I'm been really trying to hone in on, where I'm like, how do we as a group get in the right vibe to be able to get some stuff done? Is sort of what's been coming up. And not even in like a let's go set the goal. It's more like, how do you set things in motion to help other people find themselves? How do you help the communication in a group? How do you change the vibe in an organization? Or how do you change a society to like move towards something more positive for itself without controlling it? And like, just sort of, how do you foster like helping people and growing them into who they should be and or could be or want to be without very much work on my own, things like that. So I guess what I have to say to like those who are a little bit younger, or even in your 20s or in your 30s. In your 20s, I'd say keep striving, keep trying, do your best, become an interesting person. If you're not achieving something, go have an interesting experience, because as humans, we just grow from growth. It doesn't even matter where we do it or what opportunities we have. But of course, I wish good opportunities on you. But if it's not where you're at, certainly know that you can always move and you can change things up. And it doesn't have to be life-changing. It can be something that happens over a course of 4 days. It could be something that happens over the course of decades. But then for people in their 30s where it's like, this isn't working anymore, why am I striving? At first, I'd say that the first inkling of it not working is sort of your sign that you're being repotted. And then I'd say it's a self-discovery journey. So maybe track your moods or maybe journal, but like it really is about, it's not just about finding happiness or finding the right position or even the right everything. It's not actually about that at all. It's sort of about falling backwards into who you once were and becoming who you're going to be and integrating that self. And so that takes time. And sometimes it takes tragedy. Sometimes it takes large movements in self-growth. Sometimes it takes large movements in group growth, or a lot of later life is painful because we all die, we all lose everything. So you're kind of at the top of the mountain and then you're gonna be walking down. But it's so weird because once you get past that part of middle age where you're crisising and you know you have to make changes and you're losing like things that you had built over time or you thought you needed or you thought you had to have, all of a sudden it sort of settles. And then things like career or family or any of those things, while you have the most responsibility that you've ever had, they sort of settle because, first of all, you're probably more used to doing your job, your career, your relationships. So it's not as new. You're more in this, like, the different stages of learning. You're much later in those, and you've worked through things, hopefully, in your job or with your spouse, that you're in, like, a better place where you can, like, every crisis doesn't hit like a bomb. It's more like, okay, how do we, feng shui this? How do we move about this? And I think you start to kind of become less attached to your achievements And it's weird because then your achievements also become easier to do. You become more proficient at your job, and you do start to feel this giving back. You're like, how can I give back? How can I create stability? How can I be the best parent I can, or the best citizen, or the best daughter or wife? And it's sort of the most active period of time in your life, but you're so exhausted too because it's just nonstop. It just keeps coming. Winston Churchill. One damn thing after another. It really is. It just really is all of that. Middling, you're like spread thin because like your parents are aging, your kids are aging, and it's like you really do feel time and your mortality probably more than anything else. And you're also starting to feel yourself age and yourself kind of fade. We aren't those young sprite things, but you're at like this really cool pinnacle time too. So I'd say that I'm with young, and that middle age is really, really interesting. It's different for everyone, so there's really no sound advice to like hand out besides kind of listen to your demons, kind of figure out what do you want to leave, and kind of think about the people around you, and are you happy with how that is? Or think about like your job, are you happy with that? Because it is kind of your last time to really make a change. Although I really feel like as an EP, I feel like I could change into my 90s, so that doesn't really scare me. But I feel like for a lot of people who don't like change, this is the time to kind of reassess, reevaluate. Therapy is beautiful. Exercise is wonderful. It gets your brain kind of moving. Art is good. Learning new things. I was talking to my friend about that. She's learning new things, like taking a new class, kind of working on any relationship stuff, working on things that you want to like loose ends. In my case, writing my novel and just finally getting that done. Middling. So I think I will take you on a couple barn trips I talked about in my last little video on here, but I'm going to go off for a while, but I think I stirred up my own brain yesterday. That's what happens to me. I'll like have a meeting or have a thought, and then like it has to bang around in my head for a while before I can actually produce really what I was thinking. Sometimes it takes years. I was talking to my husband yesterday about something I'd thought about. Well, I think I was thinking about gender when I thought about it like about 5 or 6 years ago, and I had some inklings, but I was like, I just tied them up like last night. And he's like, oh wow. And I'm like, yeah. And when I thought about like 2002 politics, like didn't come to fruition for me until like 2014. So it really just like, it takes a while sometimes, but sometimes it just takes a day. Just need it to bang around in there, kind of bang something loose. But anyway, I wish you a good day. Be gentle with yourselves, no matter where you're at. If you're middling, if you're younger, it's sometimes really hard to take in the moment, but we only have the moment. We only have the present. And while you should prepare for the future and you shouldn't live in the past, those are really important parts of our identities and our ways that we perceive the present, and like the way that we can understand or grasp or circumvent part of reality from wherever we're at. So I wish you the present moment, and I wish you gratitude within that moment. I know that's sometimes hard as well, especially if you're going through a hard time. But if you can find that to hold on to, it can sustain you for a long period. So, all right, be gentle with yourselves. I'll see you in a bit. Bye-bye.